Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're talking about the one, the only Turbo Toad token. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we actually have gone up 300 followers in the last few days. You gotta see, more animated type of videos, which is what we love to see, right? Depending on what is made, it can always go viral, right? That's the beautiful thing about videos, which is why I like them so much, which is why I'm happy that, Turbo I pretty much assigned someone a couple weeks ago to create videos for us, and I'm very, very happy about that. Let's dive into the basics first, right? Let's dive into the basics first. We can see when we go to Turbo, ladies and gentlemen, we are currently ranked 160 in the world. We are currently at 335 million market cap with around 35 million volume. We can see in the last 7 days, we've gone up 17%. And if we go and see how many holders we have, we can see we almost actually have 57,000 holders. So very, very nice, right? Almost at 57,000. We've been climbing up the last few months consistently, which is what I love to see. And yeah, when we go to the overall market cap in the last month, right? Once again, every time there's lower volume, ladies and gentlemen, especially for a while, it usually does indicate a reversal sign. You can see, for a good amount of time, we've been just ranging, probably like the low 20s to maybe low 30s in market cap. And I expect some type of rally sooner than later. When we go and look at Turbo, we can see Turbo is actually kind of pumping right now in the last 4 hours. If we go over here and check the bottom, see if the measuring tool, take the measuring tool, take it here. So 7%, not bad in a 4-hour candle, right? But we can see we have officially broke structure. The last couple of hours we were selling off, right? We kind of just went sideways between mainly 0.0051 and then 0.0048, right? We had a couple of hours of weak price action and we sold off a little bit lower. But now you can see in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, we've been just pumping fairly good, right? We have been pumping fairly good. And look, sometimes when the markets, struggle to go higher and higher, all it takes is just a little bit of a pullback, right? We sold off a decent amount in one day, right? In one day, we sold off roughly 11 to 12%, right? Which is nothing that crazy. But like I said, sometimes a pullback is needed to then shoot further up. As of right now, we have broke structure and we are looking very, very good. Not only have we broke structure, but our price action is very, very aggressive. We can see, right, for a couple of hours, roughly 1 to 2 days, we were in this channel, right, this sell-off channel. And then, of course, 4 hours ago, we broke through it. And now we are just consistently printing higher and higher highs, right? When we go to something like the 4 hour, I mean, look at this 4 hour candle. It is absolutely beautiful, right? So we already took out this 4 hour candle here at 0.00468. So to be honest, the structure should shift. I would not be surprised if the next 4 hour candle after this would be a minor sell-off, right? Just for a retest, to be honest, just for a retest, because we do actually have some type of support and resistance between 0.0048 and 0.0047, right? Right, we have a little bit of a support and resistance here, so we could definitely see a 4 hour sell candle. Nothing too crazy to then bounce up higher to contest this last recent push, right? We literally have a double top here of liquidity. And of course, we would be contesting this high over here at 0.00528. So, right, I expect overall upside momentum. Like I said, things are looking good. Even on the weekly, right? The way we close the weekly, and this is something I said about ZBIC, and I'll say it now, right? Where if this weekly candle, even if it closes slow, but closes kind of similar to what we have right now, right? Like this, that would indicate a higher low, right? We have a low weekly candle at 0.0043, and we would have a higher low, meaning that even if we don't necessarily pump too much this week, next week would be a big rally, at least probably of 20 to 30%, right? Or even more, because we would definitely be looking to contest these highs over here that we did print roughly a month ago, right? Roughly a month ago, mid-July, we printed 0.00 0.69, right? Practically 0.7. So I would not be surprised if that would be the case. I'll show you what happened with ZBEC, right? I'll show you what happened with ZBEC on the weekly. It was literally the same thing, right? We saw a weekly low. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we had a higher weekly candle. And then you can see for the next 2 weeks, it was just beautiful, right? It was just beautiful. Green, 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 green. Very, very narrow trend line green. And yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I expect for Turbo. Overall, the markets are looking good. They're looking healthy. Okay. You can see Bitcoin has actually had a bit of a retracement today, right? We have a bit of retracement, and then we have a bit of a pullback to the upside now. And I overall still expect Bitcoin to be fairly green. Obviously, I'll be monitoring Bitcoin to see what happens. Bitcoin dominance is the next biggest thing because we know if Bitcoin dominance drops below 60%, and especially if we get below a candle close on the weekly below 60%, we could be very well in a situation where, we're in a similar situation like here, right? We could be somewhere here where we sell off a couple percent, eventually go sideways for a couple of weeks before the grand finale, people. This is going to be the craziest times of our life, is when this Bitcoin dominance starts getting absolutely shredded. Right now it's selling off. Yes, right now it's doing its thing, but what I'm talking about is it going, down 4 to 6 weeks, and it going down roughly 25 to 35% in those 6 weeks. That's when you see altcoin season really pop off, right? We had a 60, pretty much a 61% dominance. And by the time 6 weeks ended, it was at 40%. So 20% in 4 to 6 weeks is very, very heavy. In the last few weeks, we only dropped roughly 5.5%, and we already saw some gains, but mainly in Ethereum, right? But we also know, ladies and gentlemen, that Ethereum has to pump first before any of the altcoins, because that's just the way it's been throughout all the cycles, right? The big boys get the liquidity first. Eventually, the smaller caps like our coins get the liquidity once it starts transferring from Bitcoin and Ethereum down to altcoins. But ladies and gentlemen, overall, I am super, super excited, right? We also do know that we are just generally kind of going sideways, right? We are kind of going sideways. We're just stuck between two ranges, which is why, based off the price action and based off previous evidence, I do believe we are just going to burst through this 0.0065 roof very, very soon. We are also, looking very nice on the weekly trend. We are consistently tapping and respecting it. So, like I said, we are just getting closer to the point where we are going to have to make a decision, and we will most likely be, bursting to the upside. Turbo is probably going to see a big burst because there is a horizontal support and resistance, but there's also a also a diagonal one, right? We can see there's multiple points that it's touching. Boom, 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 boom. So, like I said, I expect a big burst over the next few weeks. But that is ultimately it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.